You're listening to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, created to help you succeed in your PMP certification journey. Learn more at baremetalcyber.com, where additional prepcasts, books, and training materials await. Let's get started. Projects may appear on paper as lists of deliverables, milestones, and budgets, but in reality, they are human systems. Every decision you make as a project leader touches people, team members, stakeholders, vendors, regulators, and end users. This is why ethics is not optional in project management. The PMI Code of Ethics identifies 4 foundational values: responsibility, respect, fairness, and honesty. These are not abstract ideals. They are practical guardrails that help you navigate tough calls under pressure. In this episode, we focus on responsibility and respect, because they are often tested together. When either slips, trust collapses quickly. And without trust, even the most detailed project plan can unravel. Responsibility in the PMI framework means accepting ownership for the decisions you make, the actions you take, and the outcomes they create. It means you cannot hide behind "the process required it" or "the team decided" when consequences are harmful. True responsibility includes disclosing risks as soon as they are known, identifying constraints honestly, and raising conflicts early so stakeholders can adjust. It also means correcting errors openly and following through on commitments. Responsibility is seen when project managers are transparent about what is possible and courageous about delivering bad news promptly, even when it makes conversations difficult. Respect, by contrast, is about how you treat people while managing those outcomes. Respect means consistently affirming the dignity of every individual you interact with. It requires creating an environment where people feel safe to speak, where cultural differences are considered, and where language is chosen thoughtfully. In global or hybrid teams, respect is reflected in how meetings are scheduled across time zones, in how feedback is given across cultural lines, and in how disagreements are framed. Disrespect is toxic because it shuts down voices, leading to blind spots and risks that surface too late. Respect is the soil in which responsibility can actually grow. To see responsibility in practice, imagine you identify a high-probability risk late in planning. Responsibility means you disclose it promptly to stakeholders rather than delaying in the hope it will diminish. It also means recording it in the risk register, assigning an owner, and presenting response options transparently. If that risk becomes an issue, responsibility means accepting accountability for the decision path you took, not shifting blame to the team or the vendor. Teams and sponsors may not enjoy hearing bad news, but they will respect you if you demonstrate ownership and a commitment to corrective action. Responsibility also includes handling commitments. If you promise to deliver a report, responsibility means ensuring it is completed on time and at the expected quality. If delays occur, responsibility means communicating them early, not waiting until the deadline has already passed. And when mistakes are made, responsibility does not mean hiding them. It means admitting them, analyzing root causes, and showing visibly how you will prevent a recurrence. This is what turns errors into trust-building moments. Project leaders who practice responsibility consistently are seen as reliable, even when outcomes are not perfect. Respect in communication begins with active listening. This means making the effort to understand before seeking to be understood. In practice, it looks like summarizing back what a stakeholder has said, asking clarifying questions, and resisting the urge to interrupt. It also means avoiding sarcasm, jokes that rely on stereotypes, or dismissive phrases that can alienate colleagues in remote or cross-cultural teams. Respect in language means choosing neutral, professional words that critique ideas without attacking people. Documenting agreements in neutral language reinforces this respect because it shows you value clarity and fairness over spin or favoritism. Consider a situation where a sponsor is frustrated about slippage. Respect in communication means you acknowledge the frustration, demonstrate that you have heard the concern, and then redirect to the evidence in your schedule and risk logs. It does not mean dismissing their concerns or returning frustration with defensiveness. Respect also means ensuring quieter voices are invited into the conversation. In virtual teams, respect is seen when you pause to ask those who have not spoken for their input, or when you check in with colleagues in different time zones whose voices might otherwise be missed. These small moves protect inclusion and balance. Power dynamics often amplify the need for respect. When people believe their voice could bring retaliation, they stop raising concerns. Psychological safety is essential in project teams because it allows people to disclose issues before they become crises. Respectful leaders prevent retaliation by affirming openly that concerns are welcome and will not be punished. They also use facilitation techniques that deliberately bring quieter or more junior voices into the discussion. This can mean round-robin input, anonymous feedback channels, or small breakout discussions where power imbalances are less intimidating. Respect is not simply politeness. It is about creating systems that protect honesty. Respect also means protecting whistleblowers and ensuring that serious issues are raised through proper channels. A project manager may not control organizational policies, but they can control whether their team feels safe to use them. If a team member reports a compliance concern, respect means you do not dismiss it, but ensure it reaches the compliance officer or ethics hotline as required. Respectful leaders make it clear that raising an issue is a service to the project, not an act of disloyalty. By protecting those who speak up, you create a culture where truth surfaces earlier, reducing risk and harm. Responsibility and respect intersect in what is called a duty of care. This duty means you must protect the health and safety of your team and stakeholders, design workloads that are reasonable, and maintain boundaries around personal time. It also means respecting accessibility needs, such as ensuring documents are usable for people with visual or hearing differences, and accommodating team members across time zones without making them bear the burden of endless late-night meetings. Responsibility here means escalating risks when harm is likely, even if process seems to demand silence. Respect means ensuring that policies never override human dignity. To illustrate, consider a project where deadlines are tightening and executives hint that weekend work may be required. Responsibility means you acknowledge the pressure but assess openly whether staff can handle it safely. Respect means you do not assume people will sacrifice personal commitments without conversation. Instead, you surface the concern, review capacity transparently, and if extended work is required, ensure it is safe, temporary, and accompanied by recovery time. Escalating to leadership with evidence shows responsibility. Ensuring the message is delivered in a way that protects dignity shows respect. Duty of care also extends to stakeholders beyond the project team. For example, in construction projects, responsibility means stopping unsafe work when inspectors raise concerns. Respect means communicating that decision without shaming workers, instead explaining that safety requirements protect everyone. In healthcare projects, responsibility means delaying a release if privacy risks are unresolved. Respect means engaging clinicians respectfully, recognizing the pressures they face and ensuring their voices shape the plan. In finance, responsibility means refusing to hide defects to protect reporting deadlines. Respect means communicating delays to leadership in a way that builds understanding, not resentment. When responsibility and respect are absent, the damage is visible. Teams lose trust, turnover rises, and stakeholders begin to question whether project reporting reflects reality. When they are present, even difficult decisions become easier to accept. A sponsor may not like a delay, but if you show responsibility in disclosing it early and respect in how you communicate it, they will trust you more. A team member may resist raising a concern, but if you consistently protect and respect those who speak, they will feel safe to surface issues sooner. Responsibility and respect do not guarantee easy projects, but they do guarantee credibility. Responsibility and respect are the foundations on which fairness and honesty, the other two PMI values, can stand. Fairness requires responsible decisions and respectful treatment of all parties. Honesty requires responsible ownership of facts and respectful delivery of truth. Without responsibility, fairness collapses into excuse-making. Without respect, honesty becomes harshness rather than trust-building. PMI expects you to integrate all four values, but responsibility and respect are the first steps because they create the environment where fairness and honesty can thrive. They are the practical ethics you demonstrate daily in meetings, emails, escalations, and debriefs. By keeping these two values visible in your decisions, you create resilience in your project system. Deadlines may slip, budgets may tighten, and risks may materialize, but with responsibility and respect, trust will remain intact. That trust is what allows you to recover from setbacks and keep moving forward. Without it, even small problems fracture relationships and stall delivery. Responsibility means owning outcomes and acting transparently. Respect means protecting dignity and inclusion in every interaction. Together, they are the ethical spine of project management. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are other prepcasts on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Conflicts of interest and confidentiality are areas where project managers are often tested, both on the exam and in real life. A conflict of interest arises when your personal benefit or prior relationships could influence your decision-making. PMI expects you to recognize these conflicts, disclose them openly, and in some cases recuse yourself from the decision. For example, if a vendor bidding on a project is run by a family member, it is not enough to simply claim you can remain objective. You must disclose the relationship and step aside. Responsibility here is about owning potential bias. Respect is about protecting the trust of the team and stakeholders who depend on fair process. Confidentiality is equally important. As a project manager, you are entrusted with sensitive information ranging from financial forecasts to health records to personal performance issues. Ethical practice requires that you restrict access to information to those with a legitimate need to know, a principle often called least privilege access. It also requires that you avoid sharing gossip or unverifiable claims, even informally. Respect in this context means protecting dignity by ensuring people's information is handled carefully. Responsibility means ensuring compliance with regulatory and organizational requirements. Failing in either damages both trust and compliance, exposing the project and the manager to serious consequences. Consider a scenario where a colleague forwards you a spreadsheet containing personal information about team members. If that spreadsheet is sent broadly or discussed casually, respect is broken and responsibility ignored. The ethical response is to ensure the data is protected, access is restricted, and any incident is logged and addressed transparently. This is not simply a matter of privacy law. It is also about respecting human dignity. People need to trust that their personal information is safe in the systems you manage. PMI expects you to treat confidentiality not as a compliance burden, but as an ethical duty. Let's explore a scenario lab to make these concepts more tangible. Imagine an executive pressures you to require weekend work from your team to meet a delivery milestone. The problem: there is no safety plan in place for weekend operations, and resources for supervision are thin. Responsibility here means you cannot simply say yes to appease leadership. Respect here means you cannot simply order your team to work without consultation or protections. The best next action is to state clearly the safety and resourcing concerns, propose a plan that addresses them, or provide alternatives that meet value without unsafe overtime. If the pressure persists, you escalate through policy channels, with evidence, not emotion. What artifacts would you update in this situation? First, you record the pressure in the decision log so there is a visible record of the conversation. Second, you note the risk in the risk register, since team health and safety are at stake. Third, if the issue materializes, you log it in the issue register, making it visible for governance review. Communication to the team must also reflect respect. You let them know their safety comes first, that you are addressing leadership pressure, and that decisions will be made transparently. This combination shows responsibility and respect, even in a tough call. Handling signals of disrespect or harassment requires courage and clarity. If a meeting begins to slide into disrespect, someone interrupts repeatedly, a comment is made that undermines a colleague, or an inappropriate joke is shared, the project manager cannot ignore it. Responsibility means you intervene. Respect means you do so in a way that affirms norms rather than escalating shame. The appropriate move is to pause the meeting, restate the ground rules, and ensure the conversation returns to a respectful tone. By acting immediately, you protect the dignity of those present and model ethical leadership. Documentation is key when disrespect crosses into harassment or discrimination. Responsibility means you record facts accurately and without bias. Respect means you involve HR or compliance teams as required, rather than trying to solve everything alone. You support affected parties by checking in privately and ensuring they have access to appropriate resources. At the same time, you adjust team ground rules, provide refresher training, or create new facilitation practices if needed. These moves show that you are not only reacting, but also preventing recurrence. PMI expects you to recognize that ethical leadership is not just about output, it is about protecting people. Exam scenarios often include pitfalls that tempt you to compromise ethics for results. A classic pitfall is the phrase, "results at any cost." If a question stem implies that the sponsor demands success no matter what, you should immediately ask yourself whether safety, compliance, or dignity is being undermined. Another pitfall is ignoring safety or compliance concerns in order to keep pace. A third is public shaming. Calling out mistakes harshly in a group setting rather than handling them respectfully and privately. PMI wants to see that you can recognize these traps and choose people-first, artifact-driven responses. Triggers in STEMs often reveal unethical situations. Words like coercion, retaliation, hiding errors, or cutting corners are red flags. When you see these triggers, apply a simple heuristic. Protect people first, disclose facts openly, and decide through policy. This sequence keeps you aligned with PMI's ethical values. Protecting people comes before protecting schedule. Disclosing facts means honesty, even when news is uncomfortable. Deciding through policy ensures fairness and transparency. This short sequence becomes a reliable guide for tough exam questions where emotions or pressure seem high. A quick ethics playbook can help you recall these disciplines under stress. Speak up early when issues surface. Waiting too long only increases damage. Model respectful behavior in every interaction, because your actions set the tone. Correct privately but praise publicly to balance accountability with dignity. Ensure artifacts are updated whenever ethical issues touch scope, schedule, or cost, because traceability protects both you and the organization. And always choose options that protect dignity, safety, and truthful reporting, even when they seem to slow down delivery. PM. I will reward those answers because ethics is never a shortcut. It is the path. Consider the impact of this playbook on team culture. When team members see that disrespect is addressed immediately, they feel safe to contribute. When they see that risks are disclosed early, they learn that honesty is valued over image. When they see you protect personal time and reject unsafe demands, they learn that integrity is not negotiable. Responsibility and respect, when modeled consistently, ripple outward. They shape how others act, because culture is contagious. This is why PMI frames ethics not as an optional extra, but as a baseline of professional competence. Another angle to remember is that responsibility and respect are tested most when the stakes are high. Anyone can speak calmly when projects are smooth. But when deadlines are looming, budgets are strained, or executives are frustrated, your ethical discipline is visible. In those moments, it is tempting to hide mistakes, shift blame, or coerce compliance. PMI situational questions are designed to mimic these pressures because they want to see whether you will hold to responsibility and respect even under strain. Practicing these heuristics makes your reflexes stronger when the exam or real life tests you. Finally, consider how you can reinforce these values in your own study notes. Instead of long outlines, keep a short list of spoken reminders. Tell yourself, when safety or dignity is at risk, protect people first. When pressured to hide or delay facts, disclose early. When asked to bend rules for speed, decide through policy and update artifacts. Saying these reminders aloud before practice exams conditions your reflexes. On exam day, they will surface naturally, guiding you toward answers that reflect both ethical values and PMI logic. That combination is what earns trust in practice and points on the exam. Ethics is not just a domain of theory. It is the discipline that makes governance real. Without responsibility, artifacts become hollow checklists. Without respect, communication becomes transactional and unsafe. But with responsibility and respect, every log, every baseline, and every register becomes a record of honest, people-first leadership. That is the kind of project manager PM I want you to become, and it is the kind of leader organizations need when stakes are high. Responsibility and respect are not simply values on a poster. They are the behaviors that hold projects and trust together. Thanks for tuning in to the Bare Metal Cyber Prepcast, your trusted source for cybersecurity news and insights. Remember to subscribe at baremetalcyber.com so you never miss an update. And visit cyberauthor.me for best-selling cybersecurity books that equip you with expert knowledge. Until next time, stay secure and stay vigilant.